Privilege is like bad breath. You don't know you have it until someone points it out to you. And the reason for that is because you're too close to it. It becomes a part of you. But just as you can try to notice your breath by taking a little test with, one of these deals, you can take notice of your privilege through deliberate thinking. So that is exactly what we are going to try to do today. We're going to challenge ourselves to do that. Not to place blame on anyone, not to place guilt on people that we perceive as being privileged, but to take notice of the gifts that we have and the gifts that we may be taking for granted. Because you cannot be grateful for something that you don't realize that you have. So first, we have to realize that we do have privileges, and then we can start being grateful for them. And once we do that, maybe we can start closing the gaps between the people who are perceived as being privileged and the people who are perceived as being oppressed. If we can all just be grateful for what we have. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to discuss 4 types of what I call veiled privileges because they're not necessarily that noticeable. And hopefully one of these veiled privileges is going to ring true for you. It's hopefully going to give you something tangible then to attach your gratitude to, so you can start practicing gratitude. And why is being grateful so important to begin with? Well, when you're consciously grateful for something, you value it, you take care of it, you don't misuse it. For example, take this house, my house. I am grateful for it, so I go through and I do the needed regular repairs and maintenance, and I don't knowingly damage it, I don't take it for granted. We can apply these same principles to privilege. So if you're consciously grateful for your privilege, you won't misuse it or misuse your privileges by taking them for granted. Let's quickly go through a recap of what the definition of privilege is, which we talked about in the last video, but in the last post. Let's go through the definition again quickly before we get into this too much. So according to the Macmillan Dictionary, and I'm going to read here, the Macmillan Dictionary definition is a special benefit that is available only to a particular person or group, something nice that you feel lucky to have. And another way that we defined privilege in the last post/video was that a privilege is a way of being seen as normal within a system, and recognizing that that system was built for you, so you have a better chance of succeeding within that system, and that gives you privilege that others don't have. So veiled privilege number 1 that we're going to discuss is religious privilege. And there are a few privileges held by Christians in the United States because Christianity is still the majority religion in the United States, and I'm going to name off a few that I point out in the post. So first, Christian holidays are recognized by pretty much, not all of course, but by a majority of businesses and a majority of schools recognize Christian holidays. That's one privilege. Another is that it's normal for Christians to pray in public or talk about their God in public. Third, God is referenced on our money. God is referenced in our Pledge of Allegiance, so that is a privilege. And fourth, we take oaths on a Bible. So, of course, I understand that the majority of the population is Christian, so that's why things are this way. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that at all. All I'm saying is that these are privileges that a lot of people don't recognize and that people should be grateful for. And another thing to recognize, I think, if you aren't a Christian and maybe you feel a little bit oppressed and that you don't have these privileges, is that about 80% of the population who built the system that we are currently living in are Christian. So that's just how it is right now, and I don't know that anything's going to change with that in the near future. However, people who are building the system, the people that our children are going to be living in, are not that high majority of Christians. So that I do see this changing as time progresses here. But I got off on a tangent there a bit. So the reason I point this privilege out is because I don't think it's highly recognized by Christians. I think it's a privilege that people should be grateful for. And I think that by pointing it out and by accepting the reality of it, people of all religions can learn to focus on gratitude and less on condemnation. All right, so privilege number 2 is education privilege. Now, this is really just a socioeconomic privilege. It's part of a broader range of privileges, but I wanted to focus on this one because it's one that is at the top or the front of my mind a lot. It's often overlooked, and it is a privilege because a lot of kids, and not just kids in the United States or not just kids in other parts of the world, but kids in the United States as well, don't have the privilege of getting a quality education. So I reflect on this a lot with my kids, and I reflect on my own education, and I feel like I was privileged to have a quality education. I feel my kids are getting an amazing education, even much better than the one that I received. And I realize that this is not a privilege that all students have, and I am grateful for that we do have it. And I say this, the reasons I say that my kids are getting an amazing education is that there are 4 privileges I focus on. They have high quality teachers who really care about their students. For the most part, there's always exceptions, but generally speaking, that is true. They have one-to-one technology, which means every student from kindergarten through 12th grade either has an iPad for the younger kids or a Chromebook, school issued. They have all of our schools are nice buildings, they're well kept, they're comfortable, they're inviting, which is that is important for the students to have a nice learning environment. And the kids have many electives to choose from. So I think these are all privileges that are not afforded to everyone and things that I am grateful for. The third type of veiled privilege that I discuss in the post is health insurance privilege. Again, part of the broader range or the broader scope of socioeconomic privileges. But it's another one that really hit home for me last year, and I reflect on it quite often because in 2018, my husband battled cancer. And he won, luckily, and I'm very grateful and thankful for that. However, I'm not so sure that he would have won that battle if he didn't have he has very good insurance through his employer, luckily. I'm not sure he would have been given the same treatment options if he didn't have that insurance. So I reflected on that a lot. Also, the fact that we had very little financial burden due to this diagnosis. I don't know the exact number, but I know that his medical bills for 2018 were well over $750,000. And I don't know the exact number again, but I know we paid 1% or less of that out of pocket. Still a decent chunk of change, but really nothing in the scheme of things. And I realized that some people probably would have even had to face bankruptcy in that situation. And so I'm grateful for that. 4 privileges of health insurance that were brought to light for me through that situation were: 1, we don't have to make treatment decisions based on whether or not we can pay for it, which is huge. 2, we can comfortably cover our deductibles and copays because we don't have a high deductible plan. Again, that's huge because even when you have insurance, if you have a high deductible plan, it's going to make it difficult. You're going to have to make some difficult choices because you're still going to have to put out a lot of cash. Another thing is we go to the doctor or the hospital if we need to, and we don't think about it. We don't think about if we can pay for it. We just go if we need to. And we also don't have to pay for our annual checkups because they're covered by insurance 100%, which means we're more likely to go, which means we're more likely to catch problems early on so that they can be taken care of as early as possible. All of these are privileges that I realize are not afforded to everyone, and I am grateful for them. I'm going to keep saying that so that you realize so that you know I realize these things, and I am grateful for them. Number 4, straight privilege. Now, this one is one that I had never given very much thought to. I mean, I know that people who are not straight, whatever term you want to use, are not given equal rights, and they face a lot more oppression. obviously, than straight people do. I knew that. But until I started researching and writing these posts, I never really thought about the privileges I have because I am straight. And, the privileges I was just born with because I was just born straight. And whether you think that sexuality is a choice or not, I don't believe that it is because I can tell you I was attracted to boys from a very young age, and I was too young to make a choice at that point. It was just biology. That's who I was attracted to. And even when both of my husbands, I was attracted to each of them immediately. It wasn't even the physical attraction was not a choice. So that's why I believe that sexuality is not a choice. But what really brought to light the realities of straight privilege to me were like the week before I wrote this post, we were at a marching band competition for my stepdaughter Emma, and we had driven separately. We were going our separate ways, and so my husband and I gave each other a kiss and said "love you" and went our separate ways, not giving it a second thought. That's completely normal. Nobody questions it. Nobody gives us dirty looks. Whatever. And all of a sudden, it dawned on me, I'm like, wow, that's actually a privilege because not everybody can do that. So, because I am straight, I have the following privileges. I can hold my husband's hand in public or give him a kiss or say I love you, whatever. I could have married him in any state in the United States that I wanted to. I wouldn't have to pick and choose. If I wanted to adopt a child, which I don't, but if I did, my sexuality would not be an issue. And the big thing, I don't say the big thing, but a big thing, is that I don't have to worry about my kids getting picked on at school because of my sexuality. And that's a big deal. That is a huge privilege. So, again, I am grateful for that. Back to the whole point of this discussion. I got off on a couple different tangents here, but that's okay. That's the point of deliberate thinking. So the whole point of this post, this video, is to recognize veiled privileges so that we can be grateful for them. Each of the privileges that I've listed are debatable. Some of them are even controversial. But what's not debatable is the fact that you have a better chance of living a fulfilling life if you can train yourself to be grateful, to practice gratitude. So that's what we're trying to do here through this post and this video. So I didn't put a worksheet together for this one, but there is a worksheet for the post. Let me see what the name of it was. Stop worrying about privilege and be grateful. There is a worksheet for that, which still kind of goes along with this video and this post, so that will still help you, realize what some of your privileges are. So check that out, and until next time, stay curious.